Hi everyone, my name is Faye and welcome to my 31 days of Halloween. It's currently day 3 and today's story is telling the crimes of Kyle Morgan. If you enjoy true crime just as much as me, make sure you subscribe, don't forget to give it a like and make sure to give me a comment of the stories you'd like me to cover. Kyle Morgan was a 29-year-old guy. He was quite mentally ill, he was a drug abuser and also an alcoholic. With this story we're jumping right into the murder, and on the 18th of January 2009, Kyle was walking down the street and saw a homeless man. His name was Robin Burton Jr. When he saw Robin, he offered him a warm meal and a place to sleep for the night at his apartment, and of course Robin accepted the offer. It was January, it was very likely to be quite cold at that time, and so he didn't think it was anything other than a nice gesture. On the way back to Kyle's apartment, they both went off to buy drugs and then returned to his apartment and proceeded to play video games and drink beer. Whilst playing video games, Kyle went off and actually beat Robin over the head with a hammer. When Robin's body was found, it was found with between 20 and 30 different stab wounds and also pieces of flesh that were cut off of his body. Robin's body was found by a maintenance worker who worked at the apartments that Kyle lived at, and obviously he called the police. When the police arrived, Kyle had already fled the scene, but the crime scene they found was just horrific. The walls were smeared in Robin's blood and his body had actually been desecrated. Not only had Kyle smeared blood all over the walls, he had also written a passage in blood. The blood that the passage was written in was a mix of his blood and Robin's blood, and the passage read, "It's better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven," which surely would have taken a lot of blood and a lot of time, so I don't know, he'd obviously thought it through and knew what he was going to do. On top of this, he'd also placed 3 Uno cards on Robin's chest that read 666, and he'd also placed a skull and crossbone on his temple. When the police were at the crime scene, there was a DVD playing in the background that Kyle had left on, and the film playing was Natural Born Killers. It was clear that Kyle had thought exactly through what he was going to do and had everything set up, in my opinion. When they found the body, they searched the apartment and they found some disturbing poetry and pictures, and they were addressed to Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, and Richard Ramirez. In this time, Kyle had nicknamed himself Thrill Kill Kyle and had actually made himself a MySpace under that name. On this page he would brag about punching police in the face. He said that he enjoyed drinking women's blood and had lots of pictures of women in bondage. Also on his page it stated that he is down with Satan. Kyle seemed to spend a lot of time on MySpace prior to the killing, and he'd even written in a page that was dedicated to Ted Bundy saying, "I'm the most cold-blooded son of a bitch you'll ever meet, my brother." When the police looked into Kyle's case and searched his background, they also found that Kyle had cut his neck 3 times in the past and slit both his wrists. On top of this, he'd also slit his wrist and jumped from a 2nd-story balcony after a fight with his girlfriend. This is later on discovered that he was on a drug that made him think he could fly, which is why he did this. It's pretty clear that he had some mental illness problems, and he had actually been hospitalised multiple times in the past and had 8 recorded suicide attempts. Not long after all of this went on, he was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Of course, with all of this going on prior to the killing, Kyle's parents were very worried about him and they actually had him committed multiple times over the years. He was placed in different facilities over the country, and his father used to say he'd come out very rehabilitated, but only for a brief amount of time and then he would relapse again. Whilst in these facilities, a doctor actually prescribed him a drug called Vivanas. I'm going to say it's pronounced, I'm not sure if that's right, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. This is a drug that he was actually known to have been taking at the time of the murder of Robin. A specialist looked into the case and spoke out about the drug. A forensic psychiatrist named Dr. Jonathan Howard said described the drug as being poison. It's particularly dangerous to those with bipolar disorder because it increases a dopamine level in the brain and can cause those with bipolar disorder to become increasingly irritable or prone to violent outbursts. Another Forsynic psychiatrist said that Vyvanse is what resulted Kyle's state of mind to be just simply out of control. It was a match for a few of Kyle's mental illnesses, such as dark thoughts and morbid obsessions. The second psychiatrist said there was no impulse control and it just made no sense, his actions of murdering Robin. He called the crime an impulse and it just was not likely to reoccur. The judge concluded that the drug should never have been prescribed to Kyle, but at the end of the day, Kyle Morgan must pay for his crime. Kyle pleaded guilty, but mentally ill, and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. And that is the short story of Kyle Morgan. He was very interested in all the other serial killers and seemed to know who a few of them were, such as Dennis Rader, who I spoke about yesterday, and he idolised Ted Bundy by the sounds of this story. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to check out all my other socials that will be linked down below, and also make sure to like, subscribe and comment any other videos you would like to see, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!